at the teams and what they're going to ban and pick. Team SoloMid on first ban are going to be taking away that Vox extremely strong carry. We did just see it in the Cloud9 Pain game, doing some Pain Train action. Let's see what the answer here is from Hunters.
I'm actually expecting to see Turnwalker absolutely coming out, because Flash X is very well known for his Turnwalker at this point, but giving him that Lyra is going to be equally painful to deal with, but Hunters might not have practiced against Turnwalker quite as much.
This is where I think the Saw stuff is going to be a little bit telling too, because Saw is really good with Lyra. If you spin up and you're able to portal in, that can be very, very potent. So I wonder if Hunters are going to consider that as they head into this first pick, second ban territory.
Actually, I wouldn't expect to see a Saw coming out in this match, because Saw is actually pairing extremely well with Lyra, but I'm not sure if Team SoloMid has quite the same amount of practice with the Saw as Hunters does.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hunters, they're going to lock in the Arden, so far captains both locked in here. Parity across the board. We've got a second round of bans coming up. Hunters, the field is fairly open. I think they get to set the pace here, kind of, given that both captains have been locked in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is going to be very telling, because Godfather on that Arden will be so powerful. But we actually see the Baron ban coming out, and this is actually a very good move coming out from the side of Hunters, because since Team SoloMid has that Lyra, they do have a lot of early pressure on the map, and this basically forces them into not playing a very long, drawn-out game. And Baron, one who can scale incredibly well, goes so well with that Lyra early.
I like Team SoloMid maybe looking at a Blackfeather ban here. Firstly, it's quite good against the Lyra because you can still use your Rose Offensive to get through that Bulwark. And in addition to that, Hunters has banned away a Baron, which means you need some kind of late-game scaling person banned away, or maybe you're going to be at odds with what's already been banned away by Hunters and not able to compete in the late stages of the game.
Yeah, this is actually a very intelligent draft coming out from both sides. Hunters leaves a lot of options on the table, so they can basically take this draft anywhere they want to at this point. Team SoloMid, on the other hand, they have taken away a lot of the priority picks in this update, and locking down Lyra pairs with basically everything on the field. So allowing them to basically play whatever they want. They might even go for something that we haven't seen in a very long time, but potentially like an Ozo, a Dajo. Not something I completely expect to see out of Team SoloMid, but it's definitely something they could bring onto the table.
Hunters using a lot of their extra time here on the second pick of the match. For them, this is really where we start to see some of those branching paths lock themselves in. Hunters have many options to choose from. Team SoloMid with 2 picks does get to answer whatever Hunters goes for here in a very concentrated way. It means Hunters need to be careful about not picking themselves into a corner.
Yeah, this is going to be a very telling pick. This basically determines how Hunters wants to play. So they actually go for the Skye, who I would expect to see a Weapon Skye coming out this matchup, but we'll see what their last pick is. But Team SoloMid, now they have to decide what they want to play against that, because this actually locks out a lot of the melee heroes. That means Team SoloMid should not be playing Rona.
Well, they're going to be picking up a Kroll for that melee hero, and this is one which is certainly able to function quite nicely into a Skye. You can from Hell's Heart, whichever direction she's using the Surrey Strike in, makes it pretty easy to land. Plus, you just are fairly sticky, and that allows for you to chase onto that Skye too. Gwen as the final pick. What do you think of Team SoloMid's composition as a whole here, Zeke?
I actually think their composition works extremely well against what Hunter has picked up so far, but Hunter still has one more pick on the table. I feel like Team SoloMid, they're going to be very focused on locking down that Skye. Kroll and Gwen together can very easily get a stun combo onto that Skye, while Lyra is able to lock her down with the right Bulwark.
What's the silver bullet here for Hunters? How do they finish off this draft?
I think they actually have a lot of options on the table. I'm not actually sure what they'll go for. They only have 1 second left. They actually locked in the Batiste. Wow. That's an interesting pick, in my opinion, since Gwen will easily be able to skedaddle out of that, the Ordained, but being able to just push people away from the Skye will be extremely powerful and potent.
Yeah, there's a lot of good tools here that Hunters have to try and make space for Skye. Skye does do a lot of damage when you build her weapon. There's going to be opportunities to try and kite back, try and build up those breaking point stacks, I would assume, really get some damage in. It's all going to be about how TSM can set the pressure here, right, though, because they have tools that just get them into a fight. So long as they can make an impact when they first go in, they should be able to do a good job here against Hunter's lineup.
Absolutely. It really comes down to how Flash is going to play this game, because having that Lyra on the field, using that Arcane Passage into the Bright Bulwark onto the Skye will very immediately set up a very good direction for a team fight for Team TSM.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I expect a lot of these fights, Hunters really rather avoid fighting in too tight a space. You need as many options for Skye to kite back and forth around as possible, because there are so many good tools on Team SoloMid to really set up the pressure. This is going to be an interesting game, Zeke, and a very telling one, as we mentioned. Hunters have had an incredible last season, an incredible year of competitive play. They're very dominant in China. But last Worlds, they did not quite live up to that hype. Can they do it this time? Team SoloMid, on the other hand, is an incredible dynasty of North America. Everyone knows their name. They've had some awesome performances. Let's head onto the Halcyon Fold.
Absolutely, and I'm very excited to see how these teams decide to start off their games because they have so many options on the table right now. Will they go for the other trainer early on, or will they decide to just go for a standard jungle rotation?
Well, for the time being, looks like both teams just moving into the middle of the map, trying to set up something here. I'll be curious to see some of the early rotations from Flash X. Obviously, Lyra has a lot of options in the early game as to how she can play that. She can go for an early lane gank. She can really pressure the jungle. She can try and set up for maybe an early team fight as well. The healing is very effective in the early game.
Absolutely, and this is actually something that's very interesting to see at the start of a match because we actually see Gwen going for Crystal. And a Crystal Gwen is actually extremely potent against both Baptiste and Skye. However, she has to definitely get ahead in CS and get a lot of farm. Otherwise, being able to break through Baptiste's healing is going to be incredibly tough, and especially for Cruel, being able to get around Baptiste, who will be frontlining alongside the Arden for the Skye, getting to that backline will be very, very difficult.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how on point the Arden is when it comes to getting those Vanguards down, because it can negate a lot of the burst damage coming out from Crystal Gwen. If he's able to stick onto the right target, this is going to make the follow-up from Team SoloMid a little less impactful. You don't have that consistent, heavy carry damage that Weapon Power Gwen or other weapon carries might provide. It's going to be on Crow, which is a little harder. It's harder to position effectively as a Crow than it is someone like a Gwen to get the damage down.
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting matchup because Crow versus Baptiste, both of them have some fairly good sustain coming out from the jungle, but one thing that Baptiste brings to the table is the sheer amount of CC in his kit. Your Fearsome Shade along with your Dane can really lock down the enemy carries and just prevent them from doing too much in a team fight. However, on the other side, it was really up to Flash X, as I said earlier. Getting that Bright Bulwark onto that Skye, or even just onto Arden, can completely shut down Hunters.
What do we think might be itemization choices for Crow in this game? Because he's got so much he has to compete with when it comes to crowd control and peel for the Skye. I think obviously an early reflex block is going to be pretty useful. Getting early boots is going to be good. Might you consider going Aegis plus reflex block, though? You do have to get through a lot here.
I think that might be a little bit iffy. I would actually expect to see Poison Shift come out. Maybe not as a first item, but it would be incredibly potent just because being able to slow down the healing of Baptiste, along with preventing a lot of the barrier coming out from the Vanguard of Arden, would be so important to take down that Skye.
Yeah, that's a very good point. On the other side, are we looking at any interesting build choices here for the side of Hunters? I feel like Skye is going to have a lot of the onus on her to deal a huge amount of damage here.
I actually really like the build that Hamias is going for. A weapon blade along with Precipitate means that his damage output will be fairly split early game, so it will be much harder to itemize just for the first few levels.
It also means you're not all in one basket of having to land your forward barrage, as Crystal Skies can sometimes fall into the trap of. I would expect, Harmonious probably going weapon ultimately in this game anyway. We're out of the pause though, guys. Team SoloMid versus Hunters. Very exciting game from the group of death here. Hunters already making that rotation, pull people up the lane. For the time being, at least, it is only Flash X holding down the fort here. Death Chuck was actually down in the jungle, I believe trying to accelerate Von C a little bit through the jungle.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out is that Team SoloMid actually left up their front camps, while Hunters was able to clear out the entire jungle very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's certainly kind of curious. Baptiste does do a good job of just laying down early damage to those camps. So it can be a little bit harder for Crow on that first pass to do a quick rotation. Team SoloMid, though, they did manage to pick up in exchange for diverting some of their attention away from those front camps. One of the early Outer Treants, now they're looking to get a second one with Von C soloing that out. They're doing a good job of overall trying to snowball through some of these big players.
Absolutely, and this is going to be extremely important for the next few minutes of the game because that experience is actually a huge part of how a team will get a lead come the mid game, because the first team that hits level 6, especially if Von C gets level 6 on that Cruel, is almost a certain kill onto either Harmonious or Swaggy.
Yeah, the ultimates on the side of Team SoloMid are very, very effective at locking someone down from Hunters, and at the 6th level mark, you don't necessarily expect to see reflex blocks in place. It's kind of your free opportunity to make a big play and snowball off the back of it if you execute properly.
However, one thing I want to point out very quickly is that look at Flash X's build. He has a very, very early reflex block, and this is going to be extremely important coming into the mid game, because being able to get out of Gauntlet very early on, or even avoiding the Ordained to avoid this CC lock coming out from Hunters is so important. The death from above, Gauntlet, Ordained, Fearsome Shade is going to be very difficult to deal with.
Speaking of interesting builds, Harmonious going even further into the Crystal path here. So we were expecting maybe a Weapon Sky. This is going to be double Crystal. That obviously has some fairly serious considerations around it, given the fact that Team SoloMid's defensive itemization is going to be very easy here.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting because one thing that Sky and Batiste are pretty good at is making sure that they don't take too much damage from that Gwen, and Crystal Gwen really relies on being able to poke out her opponents, but Sky's range is fairly long, so is Batiste. Batiste, if he gets a couple of Ordains onto the Gwen, that is a very easy kill.
Alright, so far there's been relatively little action in this game. Neither team wanting to commit to anything too early, neither team really hitting their power spikes that enable them to do so. This has allowed for Vonsi's Kroll to really start to ramp up nicely here, take those Elder Treants again and again, giving his team the experience lead. I think Hunters probably don't mind though. They don't want to risk giving anything substantial away in the gold department or actually losing farm time on Harmonious here, because he really does need to hit that first item spike to be able to fight effectively.
Absolutely, but one thing to point out is Vonsi is getting so much more experience in Swag in that jungle. He's only at 30 CS compared to Swag, he's 20, and jungle has just intensified. The shops are out, and this really gives Team SoloMid an easy opportunity to rotate down to go purchase.
They've got a Crucible now on Flash X as well, very early compared to maybe the typical Fountain Rush that you would see from these roams. This is an item that I honestly think, Liars can afford to go for. Sometimes they do have a lot of inherent healing in their kit, and of course when you're against ultimates like Fearsome Shade and the Gauntlet, you need to have that Crucible. It's going to be especially key for Von C because it allows him to stick onto the targets that he needs to. Sometimes as a Crow, you can be pretty much nullified come level 6 as you try and set up for a gank because of those big crowd control ultimates.
Absolutely, but Von C has picked that Shitter Steel, which will allow him to stick onto his targets much more easily. His goal now is to really get people to never get to Best Chuck. And if Best Chuck is able to stay back and is constantly throughout those buckshot bonanzas, he's going to do so much damage to the side of Hunters that they really won't be able to heal it up or defend against it.
Alright, Vonsi's starting to get a little antsy here down in the jungle, starting to show some more tendencies of aggression, pushing in and trying to interrupt Swaggy's progress here. When are we expecting one of these aggressive maneuvers to actually fully commit? When are we expecting either TSM or Hunters to try and find that first kill patch?
I'd actually expect TSM to make a move fairly quickly. Probably within the next minute or so. They are able to do a lot of damage with that Buckshot Bonanza, and once Best Chuck hits level 6, which he just did right now, they should definitely go look for kills, because combining the Thumbtail's Heart alongside the Ace's High will lock someone down for long enough to kill them, especially if Flash X follows up with a Bright Bulwark.
Alright, well Hunters, they did just have a situation where Harmonious was forced back. It's not the end of the world though. This is an opportunity for him to buy items where Chuck cannot. Chuck's sitting on 1,400 gold here. If a fight breaks out right now, they are going to have more damage on the side of Hunters. But Godfather is really struggling in the levels department. He is still level 4 compared to the level 5 out of Flash X, who's already making his way towards 6 also. And on top of that, Godfather is also very far behind in items. Really needing to head down to that shop. He does just do it, picking up a fountain, but here comes Von C, trying to start making some plays here. Good damage already down. Flash X wants to support him. This could be the turn onto Swaggy. He needs to get out of here. Flash popped. He is going to escape, but on the other side, good Ace's High locks down Harmonious. Best Chuck wins that trade also. So Hunters across the board coming out on the worst end of that trade and burning in some cases some cooldowns like that Flask. So Hunters can't be feeling too good about that. Maybe this is TSM's window, trying to set up a little bit more here. Bonsi got careful though, so see that above does get stunned up, has to back away. There's no fountain, keep in mind, on the side of Team SoloMid, which means they will not be able to sustain back if one of these fights does not go their way.
Yeah, one thing I always want to point out in terms of Harmonious' item build is he actually went for a very, very early Dragon's Eye, and that is not, as a build that means that you're very reliant on doing just a little bit of damage at a time. That's actually incredibly smart against the team composition of Team SoloMid, because what they want to do is poke. They have to watch out for that shot, but all Harmonious needs to do is get one shot in and just back off.
Yeah, and certainly right now I think that's the smart play strategically or tactically anyway. It's very hard to commit on Team SoloMid given the fact that they've got the get out of jail free card of the Crucible, the Skedaddle, they've got healing. You don't want to go straight into a fight in that situation. You want to try and tease out some of those abilities, some of those effects that really allow for Team SoloMid to dictate the pace of these fights.
Yeah, it really looks like Hunters is trying to stop the game a lot because relying on that guy, they are going for a mid killing.
Harmonious! That was a lot of damage down onto him. Fountain does come out, keep him healthy. Von C's playing with fire here under that turret, but is going to be able to get out of there. Again, a very good trade for Team SoloMid. They burned from Hell's Heart for it. But even still, they're in the driver's seat here, and that turret is already quite close to going down. Team SoloMid, the first blood for the tower.
Yeah, this is not to be unexpected though, because Huntress has built a team composition that's much better in the late game. Skye, as everyone knows, does huge amounts of damage come the mid to late game. Once she gets about 2 or 3 items, once she picks up her next item, she should be incredibly hard to deal with. But for now, as long as Huntress doesn't start giving up kills, they should actually be okay for the next few minutes.
Yeah, you can see that even with that early tower pressure, even with the fact that SoloMid have certainly been the ones setting the pace of this game, they're not substantially far ahead. They're about 1,000 gold ahead, which, considering that Huntress wants to play Slay, is not a position that is that devastating. Also, I feel like Team SoloMid have abused their power spike and not really gained that much from it. You know, they used their first rotation of ultimates. What was accomplished? Just that one turret. That's not really what you want to have happen when you have the incredible burst damage and lockdown that does. Flash X, Best Chuck driving forward though. Maybe they'll find an opportunity to go for more. Von C wants it. Great from Hell's Heart comes in. That's the gauntlet, but isn't going to be able to lock down TSM. They want to keep moving in. Von C on the back line is taking a lot of damage. They need Chuck to get in range. Von C goes down first. Hunters, they're on the counterattack. Best Chuck cannot get out of here. Surely, Harmonious, he's trying to get in, but good body blocks out of Flash X. Not quite going to be enough, though. Harmonious wants more. Stun on the Flash. He's going in with the damage. Another Fort Barrage would do it. That's the reset from the Surrey Strike. They can't quite get in range, though. Godfather's tanking up the turret. Come on, Harmonious. He can't quite get there. Flash X should be able to get away. It's not going to be the ace for Hunters, but what an incredible tournament.
And this is why Harmonious's build is so incredible, because he knows Flash X, Von C, all they want to do is soak up damage for Best Chuck. And what do you get if you soak up damage for that long? Well, Harmonious just came out with his 9-stack Dragon Eye.
Yeah, that was a very nice fight by Hunters. They played it just the way they needed to. Let's take stock of what's happened as a result, though. The gold swing has not been substantial. In fact, the differential is about the same. But Hunters did get pressure on the map, and Godfather has picked up actually a contraption off the back of that exchange. This is very interesting. We have seen a lot of these flanking pincer plays from Von C, trying to move into the jungle, get from Hell's Heart from the Fog of War. With a contraption, it's really going to shut down TSM's windows of opportunity to go for engagements, I feel.
Absolutely. However, Von C has picked his breaking point, which I actually don't think is the right choice here, because there's so many ways for Hunters to heal for Harmonious that Swagyu, his Fearsome Shade, the Ordain, the Gauntlet, the Vanguard, there's so many ways to keep Von C off his targets. That breaking point might not be the most effective pickup here.
Alright, TSM very aggressively posturing here. You can see these buckshots doing some serious work. Skedaddle is going to keep Best Chuck in relative safety. Hunters do not have that. Oh! Sorry, strike directly into the stun from Hell's Heart to keep the fight moving. They've burned a lot of abilities from the side of Hunters, but Von C is getting annihilated on the front line. Where was Best Chuck? He was not backing up his teammate there. Team SoloMid on the run. They've been routed by Hunters. But Hunters, they know that given that they've already burned, for example, that fountain, there's really so much they can do in a chase here, and Best Chuck is actually thinking about coming back in. A bold decision, if you ask me, especially with Flash X. A little bit too extended on the front line. That's going to be the ace's high, though. Swagyu goes down. Best Chuck is able to find a little something. Is he going to be able to get out of this one, though? Harmonious has a lot of damage right now. We need those body blocks. Best Chuck finds a second kill. Harmonious, he jumps on him, though. That's going to be the trade. Harmonious looking for more onto Flash X. Flash X very good at getting out of these situations, but I don't know about this one. Harmonious has a lot of energy to work with. Flash X is not going to get away. Von C just not getting here quickly enough. He should be able to get out of this one, though, keeping himself out of range of that forward barrage. Unless Harmonious keeps making these outplays, man, this could happen. Von C's forced to turn around. He doesn't have any option, but Harmonious, has he overcommitted? Von C on top. He's got to back away. Death from above doing so much work. Von C gets played by Swagyu like he just tried to play Harmonious.
Harmonious, that was incredible. He was able to completely outplay the entire team of TSM right there. He was able to dodge around Flash Chuck's buckshots. He was able to kill Flash X even though he was being juked for ages. But Von Z, he came just a second too late. His front hell's heart had 1 second left on it. He was not able to save Flash X in time. If he was, there was no way Harmonious was dealing with that kill. But that was incredible.
Zekan, we posed a question prior to the beginning of this game. We said this is the group of death. A lot of people talking about Hunters in the scene, but are they going to be able to pull through? We saw what they did at Worlds last year. It wasn't quite there. Right now, they look incredibly tight. They are not making necessarily, with the exception of perhaps that last outplay by Harmonious, flashy plays, right? But they are playing consistently very, very well. They're abusing any misstep that Team SoloMid makes. The pressure is on TSM right now to try and find an exchange that doesn't end up going bad for them. You know, they need to have something that just goes their way so that they can actually start to snowball this game a little bit more.
Yeah, this is actually a very dangerous time for TSM because they don't actually have the weapon damage coming out from Von C quite yet, and they are very reliant on it because Best Chuck, even though Crystal Gwen does a ton of damage. Oh, here's a fight!
Yeah, Flash X got locked in by that Ordained, but they're already going to be able to get out. That's a good stun chain going on to Swaggy, but now they got to take that portal out of there. Von C stunned up by Ordained yet again. Now the turn TSM. They want to get onto Swaggy. They need to deal with Harmonious, though. That's where the damage is coming from. He is on the flank, annihilating Flash X. That's going to be the pop of the Crucible to get him from that judge from above. Best Chuck is sitting on the flank. He needs to try and dip in here, get some first damage down. Von C, he wants to get on the backline. Godfather is taken quite low, but Von C again just cannot stick long enough. Flash X takes one for the team. He goes down. Von C follows. Hunters. That fight was a fight that they started and they won. The tables have truly turned on the early game dominance that Team SoloMid exhibited.
This is exactly what I was about to say. Best Chuck, even though he does a ton of damage to every single bug shot, it only comes up every few seconds. While Harmonious on the other side, Surrey Strike, resetting his forward barrage, just forward barraging all oil plays, dropping death from above. He does so much more damage than Best Chuck right now, and his mobility is off the charts.
Yeah, this is starting to get to a very scary point for Team SoloMid. You got to keep in mind that Swagyu is dealing pretty considerable damage too, and the way that Hunters can actually leverage that is fundamentally different than the way that Team SoloMid can. TSM needs the entire team to kind of be on one target, to kind of be going together, grouped up, chasing down Hunters. But Hunters, they can play in a very spread out formation. They do not need Harmonious and Swagyu to necessarily focus fire one target because they can take longer fights. They can take their time. Kraken has now spawned onto the map. Maybe TSM uses this as an anchor point for engagement, but Hunters, I don't think they're afraid of making that happen. Let's see those flashbacks. Wants to go in. That's a good stun chain yet again. Swagyu on the front line is getting eaten up. Fonzie's got to be careful, though. The damage is there. Harmonious finds him. He's going to turn and look for more. Best Chuck, can he get out of here? Flashback's doing great at the body locks. certainly seems like maybe, as Godfather tries to get out of here and avoid giving away that ace to Team SoloMid.
But look at the mini-map. The sheer number of scout traps that are on the field for Hunters now is absolutely crazy. They have every single quadrant of the map basically covered. Barring the Crystal Sentry of Team SoloMid, there is no that Hunters does not see.
Yeah, this is a very dicey situation for Hunters here. They did have a ton of gold to spend off the back of taking down 3 turrets there, so you can see that Harmonious was able to pick up a nice item for himself. Similarly, Godfather, I believe, picked up that Atlas. So Hunters, you know, they've got some new toys to play with in this next fight. Team SoloMid is going to need to have another one of those very impressive turnarounds in order to stop them from running through the defenses of TSM here, especially when now only 2 turrets standing. Hunters don't have that much work to do to take down the visitors.
Yeah, I absolutely love Harmonious's item build, actually. Eve of Harvest coming out with the Dragon's Eye, Clockwork, Broken Myth. He doesn't do a ton of damage, but he does very, very, very consistent damage, and especially with the sheer amount of lockdown that Team SoloMid has, being able to constantly hit that Surge Strike back up through the use of Clockwork is incredible.
Yeah, it's also difficult for TSM to play their game plan against Harmonious here, because he's only in range so often, unless you get somehow that stun lock onto him, which typically they've been finding on Godfather or Swagyu most commonly. But in addition to that, anytime you're not on Harmonious, he's sustaining back up with Eve, which makes it really difficult for the damage that Best Chuck does, admittedly, quite a lot of to stick.
Yeah, right now I think the play that Team SoloMid needs to make is to use that Arcane Passage from Flash X to jump on Harmonious and just basically have everyone dogpile onto him immediately before Swagyu and Godfather can respawn. If they don't use it that way, Swagyu and Godfather will just continuously body block for Harmonious, and there's not much TSM can do.
Alright, the calm before the storm here. Both teams poking out a little bit. Flash X thinking about going in, doesn't beat out the gain from Batista from above. Trying to
Here we go!
Happen though. Harmonious very low! He doesn't even get damage down in that fight! Team SoloMid, this one's over before it even starts! Hunters cannot get out of there. Swagyu getting annihilated as Best Chuck runs in with Von C. Godfather is going to be able to get back to the platform, but Team SoloMid, that fight was on a different level to what we saw from them in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly how TSM wants to play. They have to make sure they take out Harmonious first thing. If they ever let him build up stacks of Dragon's Eye, especially now he has the Eve of Harvest, there's no way they're going to take him down, unless Von C is able to stick on him forever to get those breaking point stacks up, which is not going to happen. Best Chuck takes down a turret. Godfather not going to be able to do too much here, and the Kraken is low.
Yeah, he's actually got to be a little careful too. I mean, we do have good damage coming out of Best Chuck, although scout traps are the captain's main way of doing damage at this stage. See Best Chuck eating a couple of those. Harmonious making his way in. He's got to be careful not to overextend, but Kraken stealing away by Hunters could be massive if they pull it off. Looks like Hunters don't want to take that risk. Team SoloMid will secure that one. How can they make this push happen, Zekent? Do they have the ability to do as much damage to as Hunters did earlier?
I think this is actually a very good opportunity for TSM, because even though Hunters is able to do a huge amount of damage to Kraken, if they are dealing damage to Kraken, they aren't hanging members of TSM. And I believe Kraken will be able to almost make it into the base of Hunters without taking too much damage, as long as TSM follows it up closely.
Alright, Team SoloMid making a massive push here. Everyone knows the Team SoloMid special. Maybe they'll be trying to pull that one off here. We do have some good damage out of Hunters. It's a little bit different. SoloMid before the Kraken goes down. So far, ooh, Ace is hot. Their Harmonious dashing into the fight very boldly, but still, don't necessarily want to cut this one just yet. One turret there, falling. Gauntlet. Godfather knows he needs to make Team SoloMid back off here before it's too late. Shots keep on coming, doing some good work. Another Ace is high, goes wide, above. Gonna stun up Von C, but Flash X needs to get out of there. That's the fountain pop. Swagyu, he's trying to get in range. Harmonious chasing Flash. He's able to get out of there though. Von C, he is very weak on the front line, has to get away. Flash actually feared into the wall. That could be bad news for him, but Best Chuck does get out of there. Team SoloMid did not commit properly to that fight, although Kraken did take down one turret on the Bane Crystal. So overall, Team SoloMid turrets, but I think Hunters, with a lot of momentum off the back of that fight, should be able to take map pressure.
Yeah, this is going to be extremely difficult for both teams because right now, even though Hunters had a lot of vision control on the map, they still do have a lot of vision control on the map. TSM, they have managed to get a lot of vision of their own. FlashX, he has a contraption now. He actually has an extra Aegis to make sure that he doesn't get locked down and killed. So this is actually a very dicey situation for both sides.
I really like the additional Aegis actually, because in a lot of these fights, the way we're seeing things kick off is where game goes on to FlashX, because then immediately, if he tries to portal bulwark, he can't bulwark because he's stunned from the Ordained. So trying to actually have the Aegis for that, and then you can save your Crucible for when, oh, there's a Gauntlet or, Fearsome Shade, something more substantial that affects your team that you need it for, makes actually a lot of sense, I think, here from Team SoloMid. Hunters, look at the vision they're laying down, though. It's going to be very difficult for Team SoloMid to do anything without the Hunters realizing. Team SoloMid does have the ability to pretty, rapidly make a fight engagement happen, though. Bright Bulwark, very good for that.
Yeah, things are actually going to be very difficult for Hunters starting at this point because Team SoloMid, Hunters had their chance. They were able to get a huge advantage off the back of Harmonious' Sky play. However, now Team SoloMid has Aegis on almost everyone. Or, they do have it on everyone. The amount of damage that will be making is going to be dramatic.
Ordained bird very early, as is the Gauntlet. See some good stuns coming out onto Godfather right off the bat. That does mean that the engagement has to be called off. Godfather did not burn any activators, still has Fountain, still has that Crucible and the Atlas. Godfather's either. That's going to be another Gauntlet coming through. FlashX this time is feared into it, but a good reflex block activation there. Coming out too bad news. Swag Youth not going to get locked down, but Best Chuck and Von C both still very healthy. If they want to go in, maybe they can find a window here. Gotta look at those cooldowns. 15 seconds on the Aces High. Best Chuck looking for that one. Really kick things off. Walking reflex blocks are available. Keep in mind, hook shot slows every single time. That does mean a lot of windows here. Here goes the Aces High. Does connect onto someone who isn't Godfather getting stunned up. That could be a good setup here. Can they get the damage down? Von C into choke point. Easy target for Harmonious. We need more body blocks. FlashX trying to do just that. Best Chuck on the back line. He finds one kill, but he trades so much health for it. Harmonious is on fire right now, trying to get around the edge of the fight. Von C needs to stick on top of him. He's looking for Godfather first. No! He can't even do that! Harmonious is a monster right now. FlashX, the best he can do is delay the inevitable. He's looking for Godfather. It ain't gonna happen. He should be able to stay alive long enough that the waves aren't quite in the ideal position
still going.
for Hunters to actually pick up this next kill, though, of the turret. Oh, if he gets out of here. No way. Okay, Harmonious surely got him! Surely he's got him! FlashX, good lord!
Literally saving him right now.
An ace. Alright, finally! FlashX goes down. Still, Hunters, I mean, yeah, they can maybe get Kraken down off the back of that. I'm not sure. I think Harmonious got it.
He has a ton of damage.
But still, that could have been game ending.
That absolutely would have ended the game if FlashX not survived for so long. If he died just like 10 seconds earlier, I'm sure Hunters would have just stormed into the base of Team SoloMid and ended the game. But because he was able to stay alive for 15-20 seconds, he completely saved the game for TSM.
That was pretty incredible. I gotta give it to FlashX. This is a player that has been around Vainglory for so long, he knows how to make these situations work for him. Right now, though, Hunters have got a Kraken on their side, pushing into the base of TSM. It's do or die here. Team SoloMid needs to defend this push. They need to find that window of opportunity. Take out Harmonious, or this game will go the way of Hunters. They've just got too much pushing power coming in right now. Where's that engage going to happen, Zken? When's the opportune moment for TSM to say, all right, we plant our flag in the ground here?
So TSM is just going to keep kiting Hunters back, but the danger here is that TSM doesn't have any damage to do against Kraken. Cruel, he has a Starro Blade, but the breaking point is not helping him deal damage to Kraken. Crystal Gwen is incredibly weak at taking down Krakens. You'll see the health bar go down right here. It just goes down so slightly, so they have to make it more. They have to make sure Hunters not able to output any damage on the turret, or else Kraken will be able to end the game.
Actually, the Gauntlet coming out from Godfather. FlashX does get stunned up, has to pop that Arcane Passage backwards. You see that Hunters, their priority here is those objectives. They need to get the turrets down. Swag you doing good damage on bottom side of this map. That's the best. Oh, he's looking for it. That's a good stun on the Godfather. Delays that fountain for a very long time, but the capitalization not quite there in time from TSM. They can't find the kill. Harmonious is doing a lot of work, staying alive, keeping his distance. Flash X, he's not going to be able to pull another one of those great escapes. Chuck, he needs to kill someone sometime here for them to be able to defend. Kraken is on the Vein Crystal. Harmonious, he's forced back, but Von C goes down. Godfather, he's looking for the end of the game. Chuck cannot stand. Hunters takes game 1 against Team SoloMid.
And that game, you said it was going to be telling. I'm still not sure what this means. That was such a close match between both TSM and Hunters that I'm not even sure who will take the next game.
I don't think you can predict it just off the back of that game, to be honest. It was an incredible performance from both teams, but in the back and forth, it was just too hard to consistently find that window against Harmonious.
Welcome
that,
to
I think, was the key problem
Vainglory.
there for Team SoloMid. Zekent heading into game 2. Sky, is it a ban? I think it might be from Team SoloMid after that performance.
I'm not actually sure if Sky should be the ban right here, because what TSM needs to account for is that the competition they had was okay against Sky, but I mean, you have two frontliners. Lyra is technically considered a frontliner right here because she is just going to be soaking up damage for Best Shot Kane. And if you have two frontliners against someone who builds a dragon inside that early on, you're just asking to be taken down.
Well, we did also see some really cool stuff out of Best Chuck there. I feel like there were a few times where he could have stood to be more aggressive, though. With that Gwen, he was keeping a very safe distance, trying to play around the cooldown of Buckshot. But at a certain point, if you're not bringing people low enough that Fonzie can go in and find that execution, it's going to be hard to actually capitalize on the picks. So I definitely think there's some room for improvement in maybe the tactical play that TSM exhibited. That being said, Hunters looked, shaky in their own ways. Overcommitting to that fight lost them one team fight, then a Kraken, right? So both teams work to do heading into game number 2. It is only a best of 2, so if Team SoloMid actually takes this one, we're going to be postponed in knowing who ultimately comes out on top.
I'm actually going to be very interested to see how this next match plays out, because I think it can go to either side. That was not a game that was a stomp either way. It was extremely down to the wire up until the last minutes. The early game went to TSM, the mid game went to Hunters, but after the 15-20 minute mark, it was anyone's game.
It really was. And it's only by virtue of a few really well-played fights that Hunters were able to eventually take it down. If Sky isn't maybe the critical piece here that Team SoloMid needs to evaluate a ban for, you mentioned that maybe it was their own draft. What would you change up? If you had that second rotation pick, that you've got Art in the Sky, what do you lock in instead of Kroll and the Gwen?
I think actually Taka might have worked out decently right there, being able to dodge out of both the Ordained and being able to jump on Sky very easily, a much more consistent source of damage would be fairly important, because the way it worked was Buckshot coming out from Gwen can chip down Sky, and if there's that looming threat of that Taka, it makes it very difficult for Hunters. But that being said, Hunters, they very easily could have changed up their draft and gone with something else.
That's true. I mean, that last pick, it's called a silver bullet pick in my books for a reason. It does give you that opportunity to find just the right piece to actually deal with whatever that second rotation from A side was. I think the bans, I would be surprised actually, unless there was a Sky ban instead of Blackfeather, I'd be surprised to see the bans change too much. I do think
I'm
they make a lot of sense.
actually expecting TSM to ban that does make it very difficult because Lyra is particularly good at jumping onto almost anyone. The Arcane Passage into Bright Bulwark is an incredibly effective engage tool, especially against the Arden and Skye, who are very reliant on their mobility. Arden can literally cast nothing when he's in Bright Bulwark, so, you know, just kind of a good pick right there. But it was very telling that Godfather was willing to pick that Arden into the Lyra, knowing it was there.
I mean, really what the Arden pick did, in my opinion, wasn't necessarily trying to do anything to stop those Lyra engages directly. It was more like, all right, here's a zone where you either fully commit, like you Arcane Passage into the Gauntlet and suddenly you're in my zone, you know, now you've got to play it by my rules, or it was like, here's a thing which forces you to use it defensively, and then for the next, you know, Arcane Passage cooldown, we are actually the ones with the tempo advantage. You know, we can pressure you, and you don't have a good answer to it.
Absolutely, and Arden is actually a fairly good pick into the Cruel, especially because as long as you can make your carries keep distance, Cruel's not touching anyone. And we saw that game. Von C, he was trying to do as much damage as he possibly could, but the amount of damage he did was just not there.
Yeah, I think Von C, I mean, we should talk about him a little bit more, actually, whilst we wait for draft number 2 of this series. I think, you know, you mentioned earlier on Breaking Point, kind of a questionable item for you. After seeing the resolution of that game, do you still think maybe at that point branching to a Poison Shiv would have been the better plan?
Yeah, I think almost going any other item would have been better at that point. I think they were expecting to be able to close the game much more quickly or be able to push the game forward more quickly because they had the Gauntlet, they had Lyra being able to jump onto the enemy carries very easily. But I think Godfather's Gauntlet's coming out and just separating everyone. It was actually very interesting that Lyra almost every single time Gauntlet came out, Arcane Passage was immediately thrown outside the Gauntlet just to lead his team out, as opposed to using it as an engage tool.
One thing that I would maybe even consider as a core item in that last game was the tension bow build that we used to see back when I was casting. You know, I think that you know, perhaps given the fact that you wanted to close down Harmonious so quickly, it would have made sense to just do anything you possibly could to augment that game plan. We're into game number 2, though, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the draft. Churnwalker and Lyra taken off the board. We're not going to be seeing any more Lyra here. What do Hunters go for?
That is an interesting choice of bans for Hunters. I mean, it kind of tells other teams that they don't really prioritize Churnwalker as much, but this does leave Arden open, and we did just see, there you go, there's Arden.
And we know how good Bulwark is against it, but oh wait, Team SoloMid cannot lock that one in. Do you go for a captain here, or do you pick up a key carry?
I think this is the opportunity to pick up something like Catherine, or even potentially Lorelei, where if you believe in your ability to lock down that Arden well enough, then they should be fine. TSM picking up that Black Feather, it was definitely a priority ban last game, and I expect this to be a Crystal Black Feather, unless TSM wants to mix it up a little bit. They actually do take out the Skye, so a little bit fearful of it. It was extremely effective last game.
It really was. I think Team SoloMid, you know, this is maybe not a necessary ban, but it's kind of a feel-good ban. You know, it's like, I don't need to eat some cookie dough ice cream right now, but if I do, I'm going to feel good.
Yeah. And I think this actually works out very well for TSM's game plan, because if they're going to know something like another Crystal Gwen, or especially a Crystal Blackfeather, if they just want to poke away at the enemy team, dealing with that Skye once again is going to be extremely difficult, so taking it off the board is actually the right choice right here. Hunters on the other side, they have the Arden already, and we said last game, Arden can pair with everything. He is basically the most versatile support, so being able to just leave everything on the table for themselves makes it much easier for them to just draft how they want.
Hunters taking a lot of their extra time just to think about their second ban here. Maybe they weren't expecting this sequence out of TSM. They might have expected TSM to not, you know, have this level of awareness that Skye needs to get off the board. Maybe they thought maybe some more hubris after that first game would be there. Maybe they expected Blackfeather to not be such a high priority. Lance taken off the board is an interesting one. Definitely one of those roams that can be very effective into the Arden.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. TSM is actually playing composition that basically keeps Blackfeather alive, so I would actually not be surprised to see a weapon Blackfeather right here. Grace is incredibly potent at just making sure her carries do not die ever, and even against Arden, it doesn't really... Both these captains will just be prioritizing keeping their carries alive. Arden does have the opportunity to engage a little bit more easily with Gauntlet, however, Grace, still pretty good at that.
Alright, Hunters, they've got to do back-to-back picks here. They don't have a lot of time in their time bank either. Only 20 seconds bonus remains, so they do need to think about
maybe a
their
Vox right here.
Vox
would actually not be a bad choice, because being able to just constantly keep on the move, especially against the Black player, and especially with the Arden on your side, using that Vanguard to build that barrier. Oh, the Baron actually comes out, so Hunters is pretty confident in getting to the late game.
They were able to do it pretty effectively last game, you know, especially considering that they were against the double stun combo of Aces High from Hell's Heart. I think a lot of people were surprised by the fact that Hunters were actually able to weather the storm so effectively. So here we go. Hunters, they got one more pick. They've locked in Baron and Arden. Do you think they're just going to go with something more utility heavy here, or do they need a second threat?
I would not be surprised to see another Batiste right here. It would actually be a failure. Oh,
Oh,
all right. I'm okay with this.
Where's Humanist when you need him?
That is
All
not
right.
the pick I expected to see coming out in this draft. But this should work out pretty well for them because Arden alongside Ozo can sustain against so much damage. As long as they don't get taken down very quickly, a point and shift would be effective against them, but this is not what I saw coming.
I also didn't really see the Alpha coming in as a final pick here. It is something that can stick very effectively to a Baron, but I guess the question for me is, does Blackfeather just need more help versus someone to interrupt what's going on the back line of Hunters?
I think this is actually, Blackfeather will be prioritizing taking down that Baron. Blackfeather is actually pretty good at chasing down Baron, especially he uses jump jets, you have 2 Rose defenses, you have Faint of Heart, you just closing on him, no problem whatsoever. However, being paired up with the Grace, getting that extra damage reduction alongside Blackfeather means that Flash X paired with the Blackfeather will be able to very easily dive onto Baron. However, this is a very interesting draft. Just Von C on that Alpha is going to be basically tanking up against that Ozo and Arden by himself.
This is going to be an interesting one. Again, I'm pretty excited to see who can come out ahead. We've said Hunters are ahead of the meta. Is Ozo the next meta pick? Let's find out. Hunters versus Team SoloMid, game number 2. We're onto the fold. Swagyu piloting that infamous, elusive Ozo pick. He's going to be going for the Crystal Power build this game. Talk to our viewers a little bit about this sequence. How is Crystal Ozo going to function? Is it going to be primarily trying to, like, use Bangarang to peel for Baron, for example?
I think this is actually a very tailored build against the Alpha, because Alpha is actually pretty good at dealing pretty significant amount of damage, especially once you get the Aftershock. However, Swagyu on the Ozo, Grooving Circus, healing. It will be very, very, very difficult for Von C to take him down.
Yeah, that is a good point. Best Rep right now is making his way up to lane, and already he's presented with a 3-man Hunter squad, trying to shove in the wave, make it difficult, perhaps, for Best Chuck to actually harass Harmonious, because he's got to deal with the fact that the minion wave is so mixed up. Look at how much damage Best Chuck just took from that minion wave. That was all minion damage.
That's what happens when you hit enemy heroes while you're staying in the minion wave. A little bit dangerous right there. Godfather and Harmonious both backing off very early, so this actually forces TSM to actually... They force them to push up the wave and back off themselves, otherwise they'll just get shoved out of this lane very, very easily by the side of Hunters.
Alright, Team SoloMid do deny a couple of minions here, I believe, from the side of Hunters by getting a quick counter push in. Flash X sticking up with Best Chuck NA to make that one happen. Von C on this Crystal Alpha, how much pressure is an Alpha actually able to exhibit onto your opponents early in the game here, and who really spikes first?
This is going to be difficult, a little bit for Swaggy, because Von C on the Alpha, he has a second life bar, and Ozo just doesn't output enough damage, especially because Godfather is staying in lane with Harmonious, which I think is the right choice. Baron really needs to get that farm. If they do get Baron to the late game, then Hunters is in a very good position, unless TSM gets some incredible engages onto them. However, Von C, he is very quickly getting ahead of Swagyu. He's already level 4, he has 18 CS up against Swagyu's 7, and he's going to be getting the Aftershock fairly early on.
Swagyu actually making a sort of positional move there, which made me think maybe he was looking for something in the lane, wasn't able to find it, and Von C, as soon as he saw him, made a beeline right to the pack camps of Hunters, is going to allow him to pick something up, but the recall, it's not going to come across in time. Von C, I don't see him getting out of this one. He might look for Godfather, though. Not quite going to get there. Boots active. He's going to escape. Von C pulling a Flash X from game 1. Able to get on out of there after stealing away some camps. Also, Hunters feeling the burn from the early pressure of TSM.
Yeah, this is another case of Hunters looking to play that mid game. However, TSM making a lot more aggressive moves early on to get that early advantage. 800 gold up already at 3 minutes. This is what the gold difference we saw at 8 minutes last game.
Yeah, there were less windows, I think, that TSM knew they could comfortably exploit in the last game. They didn't say to themselves, all right, Swaggy's up in lane, let's just make a beeline at the backs, as they did in this game. Which maybe now they know some of the tendencies of Hunters that allow for them to make those plays. Von C, if he can get this Treant, feeling really good.
Swaggy gets it.
I think Swaggy picked it up. Von C unable to go for the duel off the back of that feeling, going to Swaggy also. That was kind of a key pickup. I think things start to snowball a little bit more in the jungle if Von C gets that healing.
Absolutely. If he was able to hit level 6 much earlier than Swaggy, that would have been incredibly difficult to comeback, because it allows TSM to go for very early dives underneath the turret. But being able to pick that up on the side of Hunters was a very pivotal pickup.
Alright, the jungle has intensified now, so no more battles between Von C and Swagyu over that Elder Treant. Now everything comes down to who can make the best rotations, pick up their items at key times, and actually find value from those power spikes. Baron, obviously a hero, pretty notorious for spiking late into the game, but at the pro level things look a little different sometimes, depending on the build you go for. Let's talk about that. What do you expect to see from Harmonious this game build-wise?
I expect Harmonious to just go for the standard build. This game, I don't expect him to be trying to play for the mid game. They are playing the long game, especially unless TSM gets a huge advantage. Hunters can just slowly farm this out. What's going to be the most important thing to look for, though, is how much CS does Harmonious have. He currently is sitting at 41 to Veshchuk's 47. However, TSM has a lot of pressure on the map right now. So if they're able to take down the Crystal, essentially, if they're able to get a couple jungle camps stolen away from Swagyu, it can really put Von C in a dominant position.
Von C keeping that pressure on, taking away some front camps here. If we look at the CS differential, he is still sitting at plus 16, so Von C doing a good job of continuing to apply as much as he can. Veshchuk is trying to find those windows of opportunity to make the thing happen onto Harmonious with that crystal. With the weapon build, he's doing a good amount of damage with his on points, just maxing it early on. Harmonious quite squishy at this point also, no defensive items so far. Godfather unable to, I think, be quite as effective as he might like in defending against this poke too. It happens very quickly. You've got to be very, very aware of what's coming your way if you want to Vanguard conflict.
Yeah, I actually really want to see TSM pressure out Harmonious from the lane, go for an early goal.
Thinking about going in here, Flash X gets wiped out, Bangarang comes through,
Okay.
Flash X, he's back in the action, but Harmonious, he was busy farming up some minions there, didn't, I think, want to commit to that in the same way. If Von C had been nearby, perhaps could have been kind of scary. Flash doesn't even have the ultimate yet, but he's still managing to sustain quite nicely off the back of that engagement. Von C being extremely aggressive right now. He's got to be careful. Again, Flash X not sticks yet. That's huge here. Does not have the divine intervention to make these dives quite as tenable for Team Solo.
Yeah, both Godfather and Flash X have the Fountain, though, and that's going to be extremely important in these next few fights. But earlier, Harmonious jumping out of that fight was actually the right choice. There is no reason for Hunters to take any fight right now. As long as they don't commit, Team SoloMid is the ones that are forced to engage.
That is a good point. Team SoloMid, speaking of being forced to engage, they are being very aggressive right now, moving on to that turret. See Veshchuk taking a lot of damage to pull Swaggy in during that bounce. Now Harmonious goes backwards. Von C still kept quite healthy with Divine Intervention, not being forced to chew through 2 health bars for the time being. This doesn't mean if he runs into some trouble down in the jungle, buys time automatically. First team to back him up.
Yeah, things are looking a little bit dangerous for TSM, actually. Harmonious is at 64 CS, he has 2,000 gold in his pocket, while Veshchuk and A is quite far ahead. TSM really has to make a move. They are potentially keeping up this gold mine right now, and I don't think there's too much Hunters will do about it. Harmonious comes back with Veshchuk, but Swagyu is around the corner. He might find them, but I don't expect him to even bother something like this.
Swagyu would need to have made a move a couple of seconds ago here to be in range in time. Immense payout collected for Team SoloMid. They're keeping the gold flowing into their pockets and away from the pockets of Hunters, now sitting 2,000 above their opponents here. Team SoloMid again though, no kills. We're 7 minutes, almost 8 minutes into this game. Things are pretty slow pace as they were last game. Hunters, one thing I'm definitely beginning to realize is the strength of theirs is just evasiveness. You know, they're not ever in a position where they are forced to engage a fight. They are taking some negatives from that. I mean, their farm is not necessarily keeping up with Team SoloMid, but they've got the scaling heroes.
That's absolutely correct right now. Even though Black Flag is incredibly good later on, if Ozo gets to a point where he can basically just face sync everyone, I don't think Hunter is going to be concerned. However, Harmonious, he is just slowly catching up. And you will see, he's going to be picking up Tyrant's Michael pretty soon. He's sitting on 1200 gold. And if Hunters is able to just get both their carries to a point where TSM just doesn't do enough damage, then they have no problem in closing out the game.
We're already seeing as well that Hunters needs to invest relatively little to chunk out Best Chuck. It does mean TSM, if they want to go for a fight, have to do it pretty fast. You know, they have to make that decision on a dime. Best Chuck not able to necessarily trade blows effectively with Harmonious, even at this early stage of the game. We're seeing one attack jump, two attacks, suddenly Best Chuck's down to like 60%. That's not a position you want to be in as TSM. You need to be quite healthy when you go for that engagement. Similarly, Von C gets chunked out very, very quickly, and that's even without Swagyu jumping into Bangarang for the execute.
Yeah, and one of the big things for Swagyu is that TSM is investing a lot into armor, not shield. So even though Ozo isn't going to be doing huge damage with Aftershock, he will be slowly chunking them out. And if TSM is not able to break through Ozo's sustain, Harmonious is just going to wreck every single team fight.
Very nice by Best Chuck baiting out the ultimate there from Harmonious. And actually, Swagyu is feeling like he needs to be near the lane right now. This is the first moment where I feel like we're seeing SoloMid really tease out a certain type of play from Hunters here that is actually beginning to get them changes, although a good gauntlet of Godfather splitting up the team a little bit, making it quite difficult for Best Chuck to get into the action. Von C and Flash, you can see as well, Harmonious. Two quick hits and suddenly Best Chuck out of action for the time. Although Von C wants to about this fight again. Harmonious doing good damage on the back line. Best Chuck, can he get in range? Not quite. Swagyu trying to make his way into it. Extremely low. Best Chuck now being targeted. Swagyu trying to find that window of opportunity, but the intervention comes out. Best Chuck is still quite healthy. Whoa! Back away. So Team SoloMid, they almost overstayed there. Now though, Bangarang, Best Chuck. He's got to use that Rose offensive to get away. Flash X with Holy Nova, but he might become first blood. He is not careful. He's barely able to escape. This is a game of inches, Zekin. These kills, I'm surprised more aren't coming through so far.
I like the aggression coming out of TSM right there. It might be a little bit too late. Hunters has been on a scale up for 10 minutes, and TSM hasn't really put too much pressure on them. Yes, they were able to get a gold mine, but they really have to take a lot more than that to really pull ahead with a lead.
Yeah, we do have an almost full gold mine stocked up again. I wouldn't be surprised to see Team SoloMid perhaps not even, focus on taking it super quickly, maybe even just leveraging it to make Hunters fight in a position further from the turret. Part of the problem is that this aggression is working very well. You can see if Team SoloMid had space, they'd be picking up kills. They can't quite commit under a turret, though. That's a little bit too risky for them at this stage of the game.
Yeah, I think this is a very telling game for Hunters. They're able to play so effectively, even against a team that does have a gold advantage. They are able to pull ahead. TSM is playing their cards fairly well. They might just not be aggressive enough to deal with Hunters' defensive maneuvers.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta push all in to make the other team fold, and Team SoloMid aren't doing that quite yet. Maybe they're just waiting for the right hand, though. Another immense payout collected. Team SoloMid sitting pretty at 2,000 more gold, 3,000 more gold than their opponents. Hunters, though, are hitting their item spikes. Double Tyrant's Monocle now for Harmonious. He is going to be chunking Team SoloMid down regardless of the fact that overall the gold lead is going the other way.
Yeah, I think TSM is going to be relying a lot on Von C being able to beat out Swagyu in these fights. If he's able to take down the front line and then pull 3 members of their team onto Harmonious and Godfather, TSM should not have any problems. However, if Von C is not able to take down Swagyu quickly, then we might see TSM run into some issues right here.
Flash X does now have an Echo, which I think will be critical in just saying, alright, you chose to use your triple shot onto Best Chuck, he's at half health, I'm going to heal him back up, and now I still have that save available for later on. Swaggy bouncing forwards. Not going to go in though. Hunters definitely playing safe and smart here. Team SoloMid, I think the onus is on them, but they have to make something happen soon.
They do. They absolutely have to make a move soon. Otherwise, if Hunter just keeps on scaling, TSM is going to be in for a very rough ride. That being said, though, Best Chuck, he does have his metal jacket, he has Servant's Mask, he has Breaking Point, he's gonna
oh! Here we go, that's Harmonious getting jumped on, is able to rocket leap away. Best Chuck wants more though, trying to chase in. That's gonna be the ultimate. Oh! He can't get out of there. Von C snipes him down with the Prime Directive. Swagyu, he is able to tank through a lot of this damage, but is it going to be enough? He can't quite get out of there. 2 heroes killed out of nowhere for TSM.
Here we go.
Von C's looking for that ace. Godfather, can he get out of here? Von C, he just needs one more cycle. He finds the kill. It's an ace for Team SoloMid after so much time. Nothing really going their way. Von C likely to go down, though. It's quite. He is going to fall. Best Chuck does not pick up the turret, the second turret there, but Team SoloMid did break through that first one. It was a key fight. They needed to start doing something, and they did.
And that is such good play coming out from TSM. They're able to catch out Harmonious. The moment that Baron was locked down and took a huge chunk of damage, he was not able to participate in the fight as effectively. Best Chuck immediately dashed onto him. Rose defensive, fan apart. There's no way that Harmonious was able to get out of that. And the moment that he dropped, there's nothing for Swaggy or Godfather to do. They don't do enough damage to break through Alpha. They don't do enough damage to get through Blackfeather's defenses. They're completely reliant on Harmonious being able to take down the enemy carries.
Yeah, especially with the build that Swaggy's going for. He just doesn't have that upfront burst that maybe Hunters would like to deal with in that kind of situation. Von C, on the other hand, does have quite a substantial brunt of damage that he's able to do. You saw their Godfather at the end taking big chunk after big chunk, even though he's itemizing a lot of defense. We've got 30 seconds left until Kraken comes on the map. Team SoloMid trying to efficiently pick up the gold miner right before it happens. Hunters, if they're able to trade a turn for this, though, would be in quite a good position. That's not really a trade that I think TSM wants to make, and it is going to happen regardless.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad for TSM, but I'm pretty sure they could have defended both of them. Like, they definitely could have taken the gold mine, because I don't think Hunters was interested in fighting that. But TSM losing that turret, it was pretty low already, so it wasn't the worst situation for them. But giving over 300 gold to each member of the Hunters, or 200 gold to each member of the Hunters team, was something they probably didn't need to do.
Look at how quickly and decisively Team SoloMid are saying they want to start up Kraken here. Already, it's getting chunked to close to a quarter. Hunters, what's up though? Are they going to try and make a fight happen? Team SoloMid could just be using this as bait. Best Chuck onto the back line straight away, trying to find Harmonious. Gauntlet goes down, Flash X wants to back up Best Chuck. Look at Harmonious get wiped out! That is insane damage out of Best Chuck's Blackfeather. He wants more. Godfather has to get out of there. Swag U, is he going to be able to find a return kill? No! Team SoloMid, they used that Kraken as bait perfectly. They find a sentry as well. They're starting to turn up the heat.
And this is the TSM that I want to see in this series. Von C, Flash X, Best Chuck and A, baiting out the entire team of Hunters onto that Kraken. Hunters expect the TSM to continue to take him down. They know that TSM is a bit ahead, but I'm not sure if they know just by how much. And right there, the moment that Best Chuck and A was in range of Harmonious, he just went straight on him.
Best Chuck does have to be a little careful not to overcommit here, but he finds the turret. Can he get out of there? Looks like just about. And Kraken Unleashed on the other side of the map too does mean that he finds the heal. It's critical there. Maybe Hunters kept chasing if that doesn't come through. TSM have a big window of opportunity here to try and capitalize and find more turrets. They went down in game 1 after an incredibly close game. TSM are a team that sometimes in a series bounce back in a big way just because they have some kind of second win. I do think we're seeing that here a little bit. Hunters has not had quite the same level of performance in 16 minutes here that they did last game.
Yeah, I think Hunters gave up a few too many gold mines early on. They weren't able to fight them very effectively, and TSM definitely capitalized on that. Flash X, he does have his ward right now. This is going to be huge when engaging onto the side of Hunters.
Ooh, Best Chuck, that's an incredibly deep dive, but he looks like he can make that. And Harmonious, being forced back, does jump onto the platform. On the front lines, quite low. He's got to be careful. He's knocked by Flash X. Will likely be going down. Oh, not quite! Harmonious can't get in there. Best Chuck, he smells blood. He's trying to dive on the back line. He finds one kill with Harmonious down. It is a tough call for Hunters to be able to defend this one. Godfather just barely again making it out of that one. Swag U has a lot of sustain. Can he keep this fight going for Hunters? I don't know. It's going to be close. The stun comes out. Holy Nova not going to do it though. Swag U, how is he alive? Doing Ozo things. Von C, can he find the kill? Good lord, that's going to be the termination protocol. He picks up Swag U. That's critical, Zekent. With that kill, Von C
see. He's gonna prime directive in. He finds one more turret. Kraken's still alive. He wants to end the game. He wants to send this series 1-1, and he's so close to being able to do it. Kraken, Harmonious takes this one down. Zekin, 1 or 2 more attacks would do it, but Harmonious defends. Hunters, they ain't out of this yet.
And that was absolutely crazy. The entire team of TSM just went straight into Hunter's face. Fought them on their own turf. They fought them in the Sanctuary. They were not scared whatsoever. TSM making very, very bold plays at a decisive moment. And that really gives them the edge right now. Hunters, they really have to worry. Best Shock and A can at any time hop over the wall and go for a backdoor. Flashbacks and Von C, they are extremely durable right now. Swagyu, he does a good amount of damage, but if Harmonious keeps going down in fights, there's not much the rest of the Hunter team can do.
Alright, things have reset for the time being, but Hunters have a bare vein crystal left open to Team SoloMid to come and take at any time. Hunters must be vigilant in their defense. Team SoloMid, what's the most reliable way of ending this game? Do you just go for the fight, do you try and brute force it, or do you try and force things out? Looks like Hunters make that decision for them. Actually going for an engagement though. Team SoloMid, can they turn it around? Harmonious is quite healthy, but not anymore. Where'd that damage come from? Swagyu trying to make that play happen again, trying to stay alive, but this time he is going to go down. Godfather falls too. It's a triple kill. It's an ace. It's Team SoloMid tying things up 1-1.
An incredible play coming out from TSM. Even though Hunters go to engage on them, TSM, they have no fear. They know exactly what their wing condition is. Take on Harmonious and just end the game. There's nothing Hunters can do against that. Harmonious, he doesn't have enough escape options. The Black Feather, the Alpha, the Grace, all jumping on him at the exact same time. There's nothing Hunters could have done about that.
Alright, so that series did say a lot, but it's definitely not the end of the story here. Hunters and Team SoloMid tied up 1-1 in this best of 2. They are going to have to wait on other results before we know who has the definitive edge in this group. We all knew this was going to be a close group, a group of death, but that really illustrated just how close it will be.
Absolutely, and coming out of that game, it really illustrates the strengths of both of these teams. Hunters, they are very able to stall out a game to a point where they do have an edge. TSM, on the other hand, they know how to push their early advantages. If they get ahead just a little bit too much, the other team just won't make a comeback.
I feel like we're starting to see some stories emerge of players you have to watch out for also.